Hello, you're listening to Mike Madden on the Art Show podcast. Here you will find interviews with authors, musicians, artists and anyone else in and around the arts. Some of the interviews are taken direct from the Art Show on Expat Radio, with one or two specials in between. This show features author Jackie Skingley. Jackie talks about her memoir of post-war Britain entitled High Heels and Beetle Crushers. Hello, this is Mike Madden on the Art Show on Expat Radio, and tonight my special guest is Jackie Skingley, and she's going to talk to us about her novel High Heels and Beetle Crushers, although it's not really a novel, is it, Jackie?
Well, it's a memoir, actually. It's a memoir of the 1950s and 1960s.
It's got rave reviews on Amazon and various other platforms, so just tell us how you came to write this particular memoir.
Okay, so I think retirement is a wonderful time to investigate all your creative abilities. And it was then that I started to write properly. A friend and I formed a creative writing group in Charente. And the idea came from one of the exercises we were given to talk about an object, and it was a tea caddy. And I remember when I was very small, my mother and her tea caddy, and during a bombing raid, I remembered all that experience. And afterwards, her lifting down the tea caddy and making tea. That was the answer to all the things during that time. So it started with that, and then memories grew, and friends encouraged me. And after 4.5 years, I finished the book.
Not quite an overnight thing then, but it does take a lot of dedication to spend that amount of time. I know you probably weren't sort of 24 hours a day on it for 4.5 years, but to see it through after that amount of time must have taken an awful amount of dedication.
Well, I think I was fueled by the passion of doing it, and I think that's true of people who write. That you have to have a passion for what you're doing, otherwise no one else is going to enjoy reading it because it'd be absolutely boring. So I had to hone that skill of writing, and I did lots of courses at Faber Academy, Future Learn, which is an offshoot of Open University.
Yeah.
And then I attended writing retreats, Awaken the Writer Within, wonderful two ladies who are both authors and writers who run courses in France. I've attended those, and various other workshops. So that all helped because I needed the confidence to go ahead and submit my manuscript at the end of it, of course. Yeah,
so were all of these before your retirement, or is this something you've always been interested in?
This is actually when I retired, I had found more time to do things because because I was working before that, raising a family. Although I've always enjoyed the written word, I've always been a reader. And I used to write poetry when I was younger and was made to stand out in class and read them. So I've always had that desire to write, but never really been fulfilled until now.
Right, and there's plenty of material that you've got. And I'm interested in what you just said about your creative writing group, because if you sort of tried to get a class today and said, write about this tea caddy, most of the teenagers wouldn't have a clue what it was.
Well, exactly. So that was the fun of it. It was exploring the time that I grew up, and the changing attitudes towards women and fashion and politics and the whole thing, and modern speech, and everything has changed dramatically in this 58 years or whatever. And that I really wanted to explore that, and the old-fashioned words and how we were at that time. And I did a lot of research. It's a bit like Call the Midwife. Do you know that series on TV?
Yes.
They're very much, and lots of people have said, "Oh, your book will make a great TV series because it follows on from that idea."
Yeah. It's really interesting because I saw something on Twitter where a guy was complaining that when he was a child, he had to pay 10p for every text message that he sent, and I'm thinking like. You don't have to go back too far before that was pie in the sky, really.
Yeah, we didn't know what any of that was. Everything we did then was by the written word. We used to write letters to keep in touch. But telephone calls were incredibly expensive. So I think that's why we all learnt to write when we were younger.
Yes, it is. Telephones were quite a luxury even when I was a child, and you had to do sort of reverse charge calls and things like that if you were out somewhere.
That's right. Do you remember those old phone boxes? And you had to have all the right money, the pennies and the
Yes, yes.
A, button B, and no, they wouldn't know what we were talking about today, would they, the young ones? Yeah.
No, no, they wouldn't. So you joined the Women's Royal Army Corps, and that's an interesting career move. Were you sort of passionate about doing that? Or you kind of expected to do it?
Well, I think the thing was in those days that women, unless you were incredibly bright, and there were very few women who went to university, compared with the girls who go today. So the rest of us, from sixth form, we went off and became nurses or secretaries or teachers, and I didn't want to do any of those things particularly. But I did go and I worked in a hotel as a receptionist where I met all sorts of extraordinary people, which is recorded in my memoir too. But I came from Camberley, that's where Royal Academy Sandhurst is, the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst is. And I was going out with one of the cadets at the time. And I was surrounded by the army. And I remember one of my girlfriends saying to me, well, if you want to leave this job, Jackie, i.e. my receptionist job, what are you going to do? Because I didn't want to go back home. And she said, well, of course, you can always go in the army. So I thought, well, why not? So that's what I did. It was a bit of a trek to get there, though. I had to go through all sorts of loops and jumps to get through all the process of being accepted. But
Yeah.
all good fun. It was all good fun. Huge fun.
And at that time, was the army a common career path for women, or was it just because you were in that area and you were sort of familiar with it?
Oh, well, no, it was very much a career path for women. Of course, we were nothing like the men. We were kind of the pioneers. Or no, the women that went before us, like the ATS, they were pioneering women. But it wasn't until 1982 that the female and male officer cadets were trained together at Sandhurst. At that time, when I joined, it was a ghastly wooden-hutted camp stuck out on Ramshot Common in Surrey, miles from anywhere.
Right.
And so it was very, very different. But marvellous camaraderie and friendships were formed at that time. And I'm still in touch with some of the girls I trained with 60 years later or something.
And those kind of friendships are the best, aren't they? That survive all kinds of things over the years.
Oh, they totally are, because you go through so much together, and a great bond of trust and friendship is formed,
Yeah. So your creative writers group in Charente, I'm probably saying that wrong, but
fine, that's perfect.
Yeah. You said you joined that, or you created that. Were you one of the founders of it?
Well, another girlfriend, Sally, and I, we founded it, yes, because we wanted to write, and we'd been to a lovely writing course run by a founder of the Sharu Lit Fest, which has been happening every 2 years. We missed a year last year because the other founder, unfortunately, she died, but it's going to carry on this year. And we've got the wonderful Andrew Lowney coming, who's just written this amazing book called The Mountbattens, about the Mountbattens, their loves and lives. Incredible story. That's a bestseller. He's coming out to give us a talk in April, which is lovely. And we will have more very interesting and well-known authors coming to talk to us.
Yeah, and I think the creative writing group is a great starting point for many authors. We've had a few on who sort of swear by the creative writing group, but a few are a little bit nervous about it as well, in terms of sharing their work in such a what could be an intimate setting, because there's just a handful of people there. Did you find that at all?
Well, I think because we're friends foremost, and therefore I think that's very important when you have a group, that you have that bond of friendship, that you can share things. And obviously some of the things I've written about were very intimate, and I didn't know how well it was going to be received, but they were absolutely brilliant. But they were also gave very good critiques, And that's what you need. You don't want people to say, well, that's brilliant. You want people to say, well, don't you think you could perhaps include this aspect? Or are you sure that's the right point of view? And that's what's good about a creative writing group, that you get the critiques as well as the support, and to explore those things you might not necessarily want to write about, Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make absolute sense. And as well as that, it gives you, as you said, the point of view, because a memoir is a distinctive voice, and it would be very difficult for you to adjust that voice because it is effectively your voice.
It is. Yes, it is. Yeah. But it's all about structure and plot and everything else to do with writing that I had to learn. But it was a very exciting time.
Well, we've been centred in France at the Charente Creative Writers Group, so we're going to go to a break with French band Salt and their song On Our Way.
Woo! And we go now. On our way. On our way. Time to get on the fence. Are you up to leave your sins? Yeah. Lay down your shit. The master is that bitch. Cross the perfect fit. This is gonna be lit. Oh, on our way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh. With my brother, connection you will discount them. Yeah, try to catch the fire. Yesterday we were strangers, and now we are fucking players. Oh, on our way, on our way, on our way. Oh.
Hello, this is Mike Madden on The Art Show on Expat Radio, and that was Salt and their latest single, On Our Way. Tonight I'm talking to my special guest, Jackie Skingley, about her memoir, High Heels and Beetle Crushers. So welcome back to the show, Jackie.
Thank you.
Now, if you look at the title of the book, High Heels and Beetle Crushers, that is, it evokes memories of a particular time in Britain, a time that, to many is either long forgotten or was never even known about. And we touched on it earlier on about the differences of today's teenagers and back then. But if you could sort of pinpoint one or two major changes that you think have affected lives of today, what would they be?
Well, I think the biggest change from when I grew up is the World Wide Web. I mean, that's the greatest thing. We didn't have social media. Everything is instant now.
Yes.
So that's, I think, is the biggest change that's happened in my lifetime. Yeah.
Yeah, not always positive either, I would say, but it certainly has got its uses. But yes.
Well, I'm talking to you now, so that's wonderful.
Of course, of course. Now, the other thing about history and sort of that time is when I was at school, and this was in the sort of 60s and 70s, we always had a book, one or more books, and you sort of picked up people like Enid Blyton, etc. So who were the authors that inspired you to sort of put pen to paper?
Well, I think the book that inspired me most as a teenager, if we're talking about that time, is Margaret Mitchell's Gone with the Wind. And I always wanted to be Scarlett O'Hara, when I went to the dances. I wanted that dress. I wanted Rhett Butler, all those things. Yeah, so there's by many other writers as I grew older, indeed, and read, lots of different books. Thinking of one or two, gosh, that's a difficult question. Yeah, too many, I think.
What are you reading at the moment? There's an easy one.
Actually, finishing off Andrew Lang's The Mountbattens.
Right.
I'm hoping he will sign it for me when he comes over, so I want to finish that. It's an excellent book. Yeah.
Now, there's an old saying that everyone's got a book inside them, and you've obviously managed to produce the memoir of post-war Britain. But there's so much more to it than just finishing that writing and putting the end on it or whatever you put on the last page. Mm. So you have been published through Kronos Books. So how did they discover you, and how did all that work?
Well, I was very lucky. Once I finished the manuscript, I do belong to a group on Facebook called We Love Memoirs. And there's a girl who's interested in reading it and thought she might like to publish it, but she told me it was too long. So I went back and rewrote it. And then I met a Supergirl called Maria Barry, who was working for John Hunt Publishing at that time. And somebody said, "Oh, have you heard that Jackie's written this book?" I said, "Oh no, what's it about?" And I told her. And then she sent me an email and said, "I absolutely love it. I'm going to send it to a friend who heads up Kronos Books." And then a week later, I was speaking to this lovely lady, and she said, "I'd love to publish it." So I was very lucky. I really was very lucky. Still don't believe it's all happened, really. A bit surreal.
And what did you do, sort of, because it's been out a while now, so what did you do for the launch of the book? Was that a special time?
Yeah, well, it's only been out for, let me see, it was the 14th of December last year, so not...
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I invited all my friends from the creative writing group, of course, and a few other writer friends. Susie Kelly, who is a fabulous memoir writer, who lives in the Charente and has been my mentor, and she endorsed the book. So I had those endorsements before the publishers had a look at it. I was very lucky there. But I did have 2 book signing events prior to that. So that was all very exciting. But it all took place in France, of course.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because it is a memoir of post-war Britain, essentially. And you are based in southwest France. So did you come over to the UK to do some promotion over here, or was it all based in France?
No, sadly, I haven't been able to do that. But the Women's Royal Army Corps Association have been promoting my book. Absolutely wonderful. And what was lovely is I insisted that it was published last year, which was the 70th anniversary of the formation of the Women's Royal Army Corps. And I'm trying to support them too, because we're having the statue unveiled next month at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire.
Right.
And we're trying to raise funds for that. And they're doing an amazing job, the association. They're at the moment looking for the oldest ATS veteran, because this year, of course, is the 75th anniversary of VE and VJ Day.
Yes.
And fact, the Daily Express have picked that up, and they ran an article this month trying to find the oldest 80th veteran. And there's a little bit about the lovely Betty Webb, who was at Bletchley Park and a code breaker.
Oh, right.
Yes, it's all been, all that publicity is going on right now.
Excellent, excellent.
Hey, my memoir isn't just about, me in the army, but it's about my life, losses and loves of an officer and the lady. So, it's it's about my relationships too. So it's not just a kind of a documented life. You know what I mean?
I'm sure you put far more life into it than just a straightforward documentary.
Packed full of stories reflecting the changing sexual attitudes prior to the arrival of the pill.
Oh, right, yes.
That were firmly below our knee in those days. A few years later, halfway up your thigh and then higher later on. So, it's before the pill, so that's what changed life, wasn't it?
That was a very, very big change, yes.
Yeah, we're talking about change. I think that's probably one of the biggest changes after the WWW.
Yes. I'd probably rank those two not far apart, actually, in terms of importance. But the writing is not the only thing that you do. I know you're a Reiki practitioner and an artist. So have you taken those further, or are they just sort of things that you do in your spare time?
Okay, well, Reiki I've been doing for a long time, about 30 years, I think. I've been an expatriate for more years than I've lived in England. And of course, having a family away and being in a different country, there are all those stresses. And I found that Reiki has helped me hugely to overcome all those stresses. So that's why I practice Reiki, and to help myself and others. And the painting, I've always painted all my life, and I love it. I belong to groups. But now I've got this passion for mosaics. So I'm now spending more time doing mosaics, which is very tactile and great fun. And I meet up with lots of other super girls, and we have a jolly good laugh, which is for goodness sake.
It sounds like you've got plenty to enjoy in your retirement. But over the next few months, what's next for you? Are you working on another book, or are you concentrating more on the artist side of things?
Well, I'm continuing to write. I'm starting on book 2. At the moment, I'm in Spain with my husband, and using this lovely place to relax and do some writing, which is great. And when I get back, there's lots of projects ongoing with mosaics and the Reiki, and all kinds of visiting authors coming. So it's all good fun.
Brilliant. Well, we're sadly running out of time now. So in the few moments we've got left, just explain to our listeners where they can find out any more about yourself, or any more about any of the events and societies and groups that you're involved in.
Okay, well, you can find me on Twitter. That's at Skingley J. You can find me on Facebook, same thing, Jackie Skingley or Skingley J. And also you can find my book on Amazon and loads of other sites who are offering it. Hive, I think, is quite a good one at the minute. And Chrome's books have everything about me, all my details, all the reviews, and my synopsis and bio, so that's available. The writing group I belong to, we're a closed group, really. We're just a group of friends, but there are lots of other writing groups I know in the Charente, and you can have a look online. I'm sure if you're in that area, you can find one, or you can contact me through my author's page. I can, on Facebook. So is that about it?
That's wonderful. There's tons of ways people can get in touch with you, but also some very helpful information about creative writing groups, because I do think they are very, very helpful for a lot of authors.
I know of 2 other really good ones, so I could give that information. Yes. Well, it's been lovely talking to you, Mike, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
It's been wonderful talking to you, Jackie, and I hope that when your next book is finished, I hope it's not going to take 4.5 years. You're used to the process now, so you can speed it up.
Well, I have to, not my grace age, Mike.
Oh dear, I know that's not what I meant, but
day, is what I say.
But it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on, and look forward to hearing from you soon.
Great, thanks, Mike.
And we're going to go out with a blast from the past, but with his latest single. This is Steve Harley, and I've Just Seen a Face.
I've just seen a face, I can't forget the time or place where we just met. She's just the girl for me, and I want all the world to see we've met. Oh, had it been another day, I might have looked the other way, and I'd have never been aware. But as it is, I'll dream of her tonight. La da 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 da. Falling, yeah, I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again. I have never known the likes of this. I've been alone and I have missed things and kept out of sight, but other girls were never quite like this. La da 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 da. Falling, yeah, I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again. Kick on. I've just seen her face, I can't forget the time or place where we just met. She's just the girl for me, I want all the world to see we've met. La da 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 da. Had it been another day, I might have looked the other way, and I'd have never been aware. But as it is, I'll dream of her tonight. La da 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 da. Falling, yes, I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again. Falling, yes, I am falling, and she keeps calling me back again.
You've been listening to the Arts Show podcast with Mike Madden. Come back soon for more artists, authors, musicians and anyone else connected with the arts. We're going to play out with Mike Sanchez and I Don't Stand a Chance.
Baby, you hiding something that you don't want me to know, because I'm getting a vibe from way down the side, like you're just about ready to go. Can't tell me where you stayed last night. You just can't cope with treating me right. I'm on the road to heartbreak. Now's the time to tell me so, because I'm getting a chill like I'm gonna be ill. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know when I can't make you dance. Well, I said goodbye. Find yourself another guy. I wish you were mine, but I'm losing my mind. I don't stand a chance. Poor heart in your hands. I don't chill like I'm gonna be here. I know you don't want me no more. I won't be satisfied with your little white lies. Girl, I've only just begun to realize I don't stand a chance. No, I don't stand a chance. You don't wanna know when I can't make you dance. Well, I'll say goodbye. Find yourself another guy. I wish you were mine, but I'm losing my mind. I don't stand a chance.